Hi, how you doing? Been working hard. I actually meant to make this video like quite a long time ago. After 6,000 videos, you think I've like made a video about everything already. But I was reminded to do so by the recent SpaceX attempt at launch. Of course, it was delayed due to weather. And I actually have to ask you a question. And it's a serious one. And the title of this video is about the NASA fraud. And it's not what you think. I'm not going to, talk about craziness like, and it is craziness that, there's no space, or there's no space. No, of course there's a space station. I mean, you could even see it in the night sky. When I actually say NASA fraud, I'm referring to, and of course this Project Paperclip, you could look that up. We brought over a lot of German scientists, and of course we were competing with the Russians. NASA has been a fraud now for way over, and I used to live just north of there in Daytona Beach, and I visited the NASA facility, more than a few times. The Saturn V rockets are incredibly impressive, but here in the year 2020, and I was just passing through the news, looking at Elon Musk and the two astronauts headed up to the International Space Station. Isn't that wonderful that it's an American-made rocket on American-made soil? We haven't actually done that in over 10 years. And the reason is because it's completely meaningless. NASA is as much an irrelevant entity, and I got a perfect analogy. I actually ran across in Florida this very small shop that does typewriter repair. The old mechanical. I actually think the guy repairs some other old mechanical devices like vacuum cleaners. NASA is as irrelevant a pathetic entity. It's just there for show. Stupid people, get excited, and anybody would be excited by those super powerful, whether it be liquid oxygen or solid fuel boosters. It doesn't matter what you're launching people up into space on. You're basically sitting them on, 1 billion pounds of explosives, of course. That is explosion technology. The point that I'm getting to is that I look around and I just see human stupidity that believes that this is still a thing. You keep sending people up to the International Space Station, talking about going to Mars in 2024. It's a farce. It's literally a fantastical farce. We have had, and I'm not talking about aliens, I'm talking about constructed craft, that work off of dielectric induction motors with incredible power sources. And of course, the Navy recently confirmed 3 separate videos of Navy fighter pilots, and they recorded these crafts that, and the amazing thing about the video is you could actually see the electrostatic aura around the craft, and they were traveling at absolutely incredible speeds. I mean, I knew those existed most of my life. We don't have to talk about aliens. We have to talk about the fact that if somebody has more than an ounce of brains, and I don't know how many people that is, do you really think that, that top scientists, at upper echelons of the government, and of course, the United States does have a shadow government. They're running these black ops projects. All I have to do is say Martin Marietta, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed. I already mentioned Martin Marietta. There's 2 other ones that no one ever talks about. They're really fantastic. When the SR-71 Blackbird came out, and people just thought it was the most amazing alien-looking thing, and I think that was the late 80s. That craft had already been developed decades earlier. We've had, and I hate to use the word anti-gravity because gravity actually connotes all these improper things in people's minds. But I mean, everything works off of the right-hand rule. The notion that we're sitting men on top of these insanely inefficient explosive devices, which is basically what a rocket ship is completely, in the year 2020, is ludicrous. Why the hell did you think the Space Force was invented? You know, it's not about satellites and military satellites. There is a shadow government, by the way. And this is the stuff, I mean, there's countless reasons for this. Compartmentalization is the best defense, way better than nukes are. Compartmentalization, defense of the homeland. This technology is real. I mean, there's absolutely no shadow of a doubt if you have 5 brain cells that this is the case. I just look at this garbage, and it's no attack on Elon Musk at all, even though I really don't have any respect for the guy. Someone once famously said that the Tesla car is not a Tesla, it's a Musk. And I thought that was just so apropos. It was so brilliantly said. You know, the Tesla car. Of course, it's a battery-operated car, but you charge the battery in that car, which is an enormous amount of lithium cells. You charge the battery, the battery in the Tesla car with either nuclear energy or coal energy, or you're literally using fossil fuel energy. Tesla would have never created something like that. It's a car is not a Tesla, it's a Musk. Very, very apropos. But NASA, I think the last time I toured NASA, because I was really bored, last time after my wife died, I just went down to Daytona Beach and met with some old people that I know. That's where I went to photography school. I thought I'd visit NASA again for gits and shiggles. Remember that, gits and shiggles. I think you know what that means. It's pig Latin for, you know. It's just a ludicrous farce that only entertains, you know, weak minds. NASA is a complete, it's a hoax. It is essentially a hoax, but I mean, it's a farce. Someone once told me NASA stands for not a space agency, and it's both laughable, but it's highly accurate. In the year 2020, you know, and I know a lot about field theory, but I mean, I'm just a tattooed monkey on YouTube, right? I've known for decades now that, you know, this garbage in NASA is ridiculous. You're sitting people on top of gigantic explosives. No, everything is about fields and field manipulation. Everything is either magnetic or dielectric. You know, everything follows the right-hand rule. If you don't know what the right-hand rule is, you'll find like 10 million examples on Google search. Just Google search right-hand rule. It's about fields and force vectors. That's the only way you would actually create a anti-grav craft. It's the only way you would actually create a real spacecraft. I mean, liquid oxygen and solid fuel boosters and all of that garbage is so unbelievable. It's like that guy's store, I forget the name of it. It's a typewriter repair store. I mean, when you see a typewriter repair store in the year 2020 and you go, what the F is that? Typewriter repair. You know, as you say while you're holding your MacBook, right? It's like, what? Who's doing typewriter repair? That's what NASA is. NASA is like a typewriter repair store. You look at it like, what is this Stone-Age medieval crap? Hey, we're gonna put man on top of this capsule, and it's, you know, it's about a quarter mile long. It's made out of explosives, and you know, we usually they don't blow up and kill everybody, but you know, we launch them into space, and we keep sending people to the International Space Station to do what? Hey. Let's see how long we could send someone. They sit there and they play games and they take photos of the Earth. Isn't that wonderful? You know, and I don't care what it costs. Obviously, it's an astronomical. But NASA is a complete fraud. It is a paper puppet. You know, there's a reason why we've been using Russia. It's not because the United States doesn't have money. I mean, just think about that, for God's sakes. If you have 5 brain cells, think about it. Why do you think the U.S. hasn't done jack poop? As so far as, and it's not because Russia fell or the Communist Union fell. It's not because of that. It's because it's typewriter repair technology. It's an irrelevant entity as so far as true spacecraft, true countrywide defense. I mean, what the hell do you think the Space Force is? I mean, what do you think it is? Can't compartmentalize that crap anymore. You know, there's only so much money that you can print and hide. You eventually have to bring it out into the open. But they don't tell you that in the open when you actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but the United States has a new branch of armed services. You know, we got the Air Force and the Marines and Army, blah, blah. It's called the Space Force. The only reason why the Space Force exists is because you can't compartmentalize it anymore and print secret money for a shadow government. The shadow government, and this is not tinfoil hat crap, I mean, this is undeniable fact. We've had true field, instead of saying anti-gravity, what we should call them is field-based mechanisms of propulsion. Well, they're not true propulsion in the conventional sense of connotation, but you get the point. I just see this stuff, and it just blows my mind. It's like, this is not real. Yes, there are two men that are going to go up to the International Space Station. Yes, it's a real rocket. Yes, it goes into space. Yes, all of that's real. The point is that NASA is a total fraud and a farce, like Disneyland. My last girlfriend, I never go to theme parks. She really wanted to go to Universal Studios, and the Harry Potter thing was really fascinating. It's designed to work off of visual perspectives. When you actually get close to it, you see how small it is, and there's like dudes, drinking soda. It's just a facade, like a Hollywood facade, where you just construct the front ends of the buildings, and there's no real building, and it's just held up by 2x4s. The only thing they built was the front of it. That's all NASA is. NASA is not a real entity. It's not a space agency, which is perfect. NASA stands for not a space agency, jokingly. But I don't believe this. I don't feel this. It is undeniably the case that that is true. This is 2020. We invented field levitation, propulsion craft before I was even born, whether they be back engineered or constructed by, because we brought over after Project Paperclip, and we have our own intelligent people. They didn't have to be German scientists from captured German scientists after World War II. Anybody with half a brain is like, this liquid propellant, massive explosive device that's insanely inefficient. That's not the way to build spacecraft. True spacecraft would be field propulsion driven devices. I mean, that's not like a new discovery. People have been talking about that since the 60s, before I was born. And yes, they're a reality. You get these Navy fighter pilots, which real video, and it's just one example of countless, like, oh my god, look at that. I'm not saying they're UFOs. UFO only means unidentified flying object. These are obviously U.S. constructed craft. Amazingly, though, not only did the Navy confirm that they're real, but the most amazing thing is that you can see the coronal discharge electrostatic, and it forms a toroidal. Actually, it's the edges of the hyperboloidal shape of dielectric acceleration. You can actually see the coronal hyperboloid around the craft. And when it shifts position, you can actually see the corona shift. That is perfect. And those have been around for God knows how many decades. Yes, NASA is a complete fraud. Just like a Hollywood movie set. Or the typewriter repair place that I saw in Florida. So, I know I could have made this video shorter, so make sure you complain about how I repeated myself a few too many times, but it's okay. Thank you.